Revenge with Karen.
Effective today, your commission is halved. Any questions? That's what the clown said. Right there on a Monday morning Zoom, with his sleeves rolled up like he just solved world hunger by downsizing everyone's paycheck. Brent, our shiny new manager flown in from corporate with a gelled haircut and a jawline full of empty calories, smirked straight into the camera, sipping his oat milk latte like he was doing us all a favor. I didn't even turn my camera on. Need to? My silence probably rattled louder than half the team's nervous chuckles. One of the junior reps, Travis, laughed a little too hard, probably thinking brown-nosing might save his quarterly bonus. Spoiler, it won't. The air on that call turned thick, like someone microwaved tuna in a closet. I sat there staring at my screen, hands clenched under my desk, replaying his words. Halved. As in, take your mortgage, your kids' braces, your busted transmission. Cut all that support in half. Brent didn't look at me directly, but he didn't need to. That announcement had my name etched all over it. I'd been the top rep 3 quarters running, had onboarding documents named after me, and somehow that painted a target on my back. See, the thing about Brent is he walks into rooms like he's the solution to a problem no one had. When our old director, Meredith, retired peacefully, might I add, showed up a week later slashing territories, reshuffling client lists like he was playing poker with our livelihoods, and quoting some nonsense about leaning into agile disruption. No one even knew what that meant. Probably neither did he. But it sounded impressive with that corporate drone voice of his. Dana was on the call. That part stood out. Finance director Dana doesn't do weekly Zooms. She's the kind of woman whose calendar books itself. If she's present, something's already gone sideways or is about to. When I saw her little black square pop up, I made a mental note. Brent either didn't notice or didn't care. And here's where you lean in, just like Brent should have before signing anything he didn't read. Before we go further, if this kind of story hits a nerve, if you've ever been blindsided on a Zoom call by someone who couldn't manage a fruit basket, let alone a team, go ahead and subscribe. Tap like. 93% of folks just listen without hitting that button, but it really keeps this whole operation alive and caffeinated. Plus, Brent would hate it if you did. Now, back to the hellfire. When he made the announcement, there was a moment, just one, but it stuck with me. His eyes flickered. He expected applause, validation, or at the very least, quiet compliance. But what he got instead was digital stillness. Not even a cough. I kept my camera off, sure, but I was already clicking through folders on my desktop. 2 months ago, right after Brent strutted into our lives with his culture refresh emails and unsolicited calendar invites, I'd done something old school. I drafted my own comp plan. Custom, not just a template update. This one was tailored to me, with a clause that locked my full commission rate for the fiscal year. And here's the kicker, required the manager's personal sign-off. Meredith had approved it just before leaving. But since Brent was now my direct report, I made sure he re-signed during onboarding. He'd done it too, in person, in ink, rushed it, actually. Didn't even read the second page. Just made some snide comment about trusting the process while tapping his phone. I archived that PDF like it was the Declaration of Independence. Time-stamped, cloud-backed, triple saved, because you don't survive 3 reorgs in corporate sales without learning to keep a paper trail long enough to wrap around a snake twice. So as Brent sipped his coffee and acted like he'd just invented budget control, I calmly opened Outlook and typed up a short message. Please find attached the signed comp plan for your reference. I sent it directly to Dana. 10 seconds later, I watched her little black square come to life. The camera clicked on. It was holding a piece of paper. My piece of paper. Brent kept rambling, something about efficiency and streamlining compensation to match market trends. But Dana was squinting, reading line by line, her lips tightened. My heart was pounding now, not from fear, but from focus. I didn't need to say a word, because I already had, in ink, 2 months ago. And Brent? He was about to learn what happens when you try to gut the wrong paycheck on a live mic. 2 months earlier, Brent strolled into Sylvanta HQ like he was auditioning for a reality show called America's Next Top Ego. Fresh off a lateral move from some nowhere regional office in Phoenix, he came armed with buzzwords, pit-stained confidence, and a clipboard full of assumptions. We're gonna rewire the sales culture, he'd said to me in our first sit-down, like culture was some busted fuse, and he was the damn electrician. It was supposed to be a formality, just a quick onboarding meeting. But even then, something in my gut told me this guy wasn't here to build, he was here to bulldoze. So I brought the paperwork, not just the generic HR welcome packet. I brought a little something extra. The Karen Foster Commission Agreement, version 3.1. Crafted over the years like a fine bourbon, aged in fire, strengthened by betrayal, and proofed in lawyer tears. First iteration had been drafted after my second reorg, when they tried to cut my quarterly accelerators without blinking. The second came after they shifted half my book to a junior rep and called it mentorship. This version, it was lean, legal, bulletproof, and most importantly, it included Clause 6C. Should management breach this agreement, responsibility for restitution of the full commission amount shall transfer to the signatory listed below. It would be Brent M. Callahan, Regional Sales Manager, signature dated July 7th. He barely looked at it. No questions, no red pen. Just a quick scribble at the bottom, halfway through telling me how grit matters more than pedigree. His eyes didn't even hit the fine print. He signed it with the same care most people give to terms and conditions before downloading an app to find their horoscope. Appreciate the hustle, he'd muttered as I collected the forms. Appreciate the details even more, I'd said. He didn't hear it. Too busy texting someone named Jen Smiling Fire on his phone. Flash forward to now, post-nuke Zoom call, where he just tried to saw my commission in half with a single sentence. I could feel my pulse thudding against my collarbone, but my hands were steady as I pulled up the folder on my desktop. Comp Plan KF, signed B. Callahan, 07-07. PDF. I opened it. It was, all of it, digital signature confirmed. Metadata clean. Timestamp backed up in 2 separate locations, Google Drive and my personal OneDrive, because I don't trust Sylvanta's internal server for squat. Last month's vacation calendar vanished off it like it owed someone money. I double-checked the clause, triple-checked. It was still there, clear as day, with a little smiley face he'd drawn next to his name, probably trying to seem fun. Oh, Brent, magnificent buffoon. I drafted a quick email. Just one line, sharing for visibility. Please see attached comp agreement signed July 7. Attached the PDF. Addressed it to Dana. CC'd no one. BCC'd myself. Hit send. The email fired off quietly, slipping into Dana's inbox mid-zoom while Brent was yammering about modernizing incentive structures. His teeth were white enough to reflect the spreadsheet he was screen sharing. No one noticed. Not yet, but Dana did open it. I could tell because her expression started shifting. It wasn't big, a single eyebrow lift, a slight tilt of her head. She muted herself, looked away from her camera. Brent kept babbling. Meanwhile, I was thinking about the deeper mess he'd just walked into. Because what Brent didn't realize, what he never bothered to ask, is that my contract wasn't just about me. The commission structure he just tried to nuke wasn't isolated. It was connected to pipeline forecasts, investor earnings reports, and projected margins for the entire Midwest division. If he triggered a breach, legal wouldn't just be looking at a paperwork error. They'd be looking at him, and I wasn't about to stop at one email. I leaned back in my chair, cracked my knuckles, and started dragging files into a new folder on my desktop. Brent Collateral. Call logs, email chains, signed PDFs, and yes, even Slack messages, because if you think I don't screenshot the juicy ones, you've never worked in sales long enough to get fired twice in 1 year and still land on top. I didn't want to fight dirty. I wanted to fight correctly. And Brent, he just started the clock on his own funeral. There's a certain stillness that hits right before a car crash. You see the headlights. You feel the weight shift. Time stretches like taffy. That's exactly what happened the moment Dana's little black Zoom box unmuted. Actually, she said, cool as bourbon in a brass tumbler. I have one. Brent faltered mid-sentence. He'd been doing his usual song and dance, something about aligning comp incentives with company strategy, while waving his arms around like a magician trying to pull credibility out of thin air. But Dana's voice sliced through the static like a scalpel. All heads on the call swiveled, digital. Course, a few faces flickered into view, cameras snapping on like nervous turtles peeking from their shells. Travis, bless his spineless heart, looked like someone had just announced layoffs. Dana didn't waste time. She lifted a sheet of paper into frame. White, crisp, highlighted in neon yellow like a crime scene photo. For those of you who don't know, she said, holding it steady, this is a signed commission agreement. dated July 7th. Signed by Brent Callahan, guaranteeing Karen Foster's original commission rate through the fiscal year. You could feel the collective sphincter of the Zoom room tighten. Brent blinked. Once. Twice. The smile, the smug used car dealer smirk, drained off his face like spilled milk down a gutter. For the first time, he didn't have a script, no chart, no Excel file to share. Just a frozen grin and that slow, sinking realization that the iceberg had a name, and it was Clause 6C. I wasn't aware that was still active, he managed, reaching for his water bottle like hydration might save him. Dana didn't flinch. It's fully executed, active and enforceable. Someone coughed, probably Rick from procurement. Poor bastard always had the worst timing. I didn't say a word, my camera stayed off. My mic stayed muted. But in that moment, I became gravitational. The whole call orbited me, and I didn't lift a damn finger. Me tell you something? Silence is underrated. There's a power in not reacting. In letting your enemies writhe while you sip your coffee and admire the legal shiv you slipped in weeks ago. Dana continued, voice calm and clinical. Clause 6C explicitly states that in the event of a breach, restitution falls to the signatory. In this case, you. Brent tried to laugh, tried. That sounds like something legal would want to clarify offline. Dana raised an eyebrow. Eagles already looped in. I couldn't see his feet, but I imagined him kicking wildly under the desk, searching for the brakes on a train that left the station 10 minutes ago. He started rambling, words spilling out like marbles on linoleum. Look, obviously this wasn't intentional. I mean, who really reads those forms line by line, right? We all trust each other here. Wrong answer, Brent. Across the bottom of the screen, engineers typed eyes into the Zoom chat. Brent noticed. Let's stay professional, please. Dana muted again without another word. No goodbyes, no sign-offs. Just click, gone. The room went silent. Nobody dared say a thing. Even Travis stopped breathing. HR's box flickered, then vanished. Brent stared at the camera like it had betrayed him personally. Well, he finally muttered, clearing his throat. Obviously, we'll need to revisit that item. I'll send a follow-up. He clicked out of the Zoom before anyone could respond. Just disappeared like a ghost fart in the wind. And the rest of us? The meeting officially ended, but no one left. People just hovered, awkward and stunned, like the digital equivalent of standing in the hallway after a bar fight, trying to figure out who to blame. I sat there for a full minute, watching names slowly vanish from the participant list. Then I stood up, closed my laptop, and walked to the kitchen, poured myself a cup of coffee, smiled, and whispered, checkmate. My phone rang 5 minutes after the Zoom call ended. Not Teams, not Slack. My actual cell. Brent must have dug it out of some onboarding file he never read, but still managed to weaponize when cornered. The number flashed private, but I picked up anyway. Curiosity, mostly, and I was already 1 cup deep into the kind of coffee you only drink after casually detonating someone's professional credibility. Karen. Hey, Brent's voice oozed through the speaker like he was trying to pretend the last 30 minutes hadn't happened. Listen, about that whole commission thing, it was a mix-up. No big deal. I hit record on my second phone. Quietly. Slid it across the table so the mic pointed right at his gaslight factory. I said flat. Oh, inflection. Just letting the dead air choke him out. I mean, these onboarding forms, there's so many of them, right? You click here, sign there, nobody really reads all that junk. Especially when legal floods your inbox on day 1. Click, there it was. You're saying you didn't read the commission agreement you signed? He laughed nervously. I mean, not all the way through. I trusted the system, you know, the process, right. Same one he tried to use to surgically remove 50% of my pay like it was a harmless mole. Brent, I said, still emotionless, that form's been in place for 2 months. You've had access to it. You signed it twice, once in person, once digitally, and your initials are on Clause 6C, he exhaled, real long, then shifted gears. Look, I'm just trying to clean up some legacy policies, okay? Meredith left behind a lot of, leaky processes. I wasn't trying to target you. There it was, the legacy blame shuffle. Classic move of the corporate gutless, throw the predecessor under the bus and hope the wheels land on someone else. You're not cleaning anything, Brent, I replied calmly. You're hemorrhaging control, and I'd recommend you stop calling my personal number. I hung up. And that was the last time Brent tried to handle this internally. Because while he was busy digging his own grave with a Bluetooth headset, Ina was already in motion. Within the hour, she'd looped in payroll, flagged my commission rollback, and marked it as pending executive review. In company speak, that's code for touch this and get your hands broken. I got the email quietly. No big red banners. Just a single line, Karen, as of now, no changes will be made to your comp structure pending legal clarification. We appreciate your documentation. No thanks. No sorry. Just dry, efficient respect. I printed it out, added it to the Brent collateral folder. Then the whispers started. Travis messaged me on Slack with eyes and a yo, what just happened? I didn't answer. Rachel from HR dropped a can we schedule a quick sync on my calendar. That's when I knew things were tilting in my direction. Because HR doesn't usually care about your side of the story unless they smell smoke and don't want to be the ones holding the match. Then came the cherry on top. An internal audit analyst I'd worked with during last year's CRM compliance sweep sent me a 3-word message. Need to talk. Now let me be clear, I wasn't out for revenge. Not yet. But Brent had kicked open a door he didn't even know was locked, and on the other side was every bad decision he thought he buried under jargon and casual misogyny. He assumed I was another legacy holdover with a cushy base and no bite. What he didn't realize, what they never realize, is that the old guard didn't survive this long by being nice. We survived by watching, by documenting, by outlasting. He thought he embarrassed me on a Zoom call, but the second he signed that paper with his dumb little smiley face, he guaranteed I'd have the last word. And now, for the first time in 2 years, I didn't feel like I was holding my breath at work. I felt dangerous. I wasn't planning to dig further. Not at first. Brent's commission stunt was enough. The clause was airtight. Dana had the document. Payroll was standing down, and legal was snorting around the perimeter like a bloodhound on Red Bull. I figured the humiliation he'd swallowed on Zoom would be the beginning of his end. But then Brent did something dumb. He got cocky. 2 days after the Zoom incident, I logged into our CRM to pull a quote for a long-time client. Instead of my usual dashboard, I was greeted with a red message, access denied. Contact your administrator. No warning, no email, no explanation. Just a wall where my data used to be. I didn't panic. I took screenshots. I logged the time. Then I opened my second laptop, the one I use for side consulting, and accessed our archived client records via the vendor portal. And there, buried 2 clicks deep in a shared folder Brent clearly didn't think anyone touched, I found the first clue, an Excel sheet, titled Q3 Partner Bonus Matrix, which is already sketchy because Solvanta doesn't do vendor bonuses without finance sign-off. Every dime is supposed to be reviewed, justified, and logged through Dana's office like it's a damn TSA checkpoint. But this spreadsheet, it had green check marks next to 5 vendors, all of them marked approved B. Callahan. No finance approval. No secondary signature. Just Brent's greasy stamp of authority. At first, I thought, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe he's working with a new bonus structure, and I just wasn't looped in. Then I saw the names. 3 of the 5 vendors weren't familiar at all, because they'd only started showing up in our system in the last 60 days. I pulled up their onboarding docs. You guessed it. Each was flagged expedited by management request. All of them linked back to the same regional office in Phoenix, Brent's old stomping ground. I started cross-referencing emails, digging into the sender metadata, and linking approval chains. Every one of those new vendors had their payment approvals signed off digitally by Brent, after hours, with no other stakeholders involved. Access logs lit up like a Christmas tree. Timestamps showed he was logging in alone, off-cycle, and pushing approvals through without notifying procurement. One of the vendors, consulting firm called Grono LLC, had an email address that ended in at hotmail.com, professional. I wasn't looking at sloppiness anymore. I was looking at a pattern. And if there's one thing I know better than how to sell enterprise SaaS to a reluctant CFO, it's how to follow a breadcrumb trail left by an arrogant man who thinks no one's watching. It didn't feel like revenge. Not really. It felt like maintenance, like taking out the trash before it starts attracting flies. I compiled everything. Screenshots, PDF exports, email headers, the bonus spreadsheet. I even included a calendar overlay showing how every urgent vendor approval aligned with Brent's travel schedule. He wasn't just helping his buddies, he was orchestrating payouts with the precision of a guy who thinks internal audits are bedtime stories. I named the folder Phoenix Pipeline. I reached out to Natalie in internal audit. I'd worked with her last year during the Salesforce overhaul. Smart woman, wears glasses on a chain, calls lies inconsistencies, and carries a USB stick that could probably end a man's career by lunchtime. I booked time on her calendar for pipeline clarification sensitive. She accepted within 5 minutes. No questions asked. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, but from clarity. Brent had crossed from nuisance to liability. And I was done playing defense. He wanted a war. What he got was an audit with my fingerprints all over it, and a paper trail dense enough to give a lawyer a nosebleed. Let's see how he spins this one. The first blast came at 9:42 a.m. sharp, an all-team email from Brent, titled Clarifying Leadership Direction and Support. aka corporate speak for I'm bleeding and need to bleed louder than the person who stabbed me. The body of the message wasn't long, but it was surgical in its gaslighting. He framed it like an inspirational memo, team-first language, buzzwords galore, and that trademark Brent smarm peppered throughout like mold on a bathroom tile. While I understand change can be uncomfortable, he wrote, it's important we remain aligned. Resistance, particularly when tied to legacy comp structures and outdated workflows, can slow our team's evolution. Let's stay focused on solutions, not roadblocks. No names, no direct accusations, but every word pointed to me like a neon billboard blinking difficult woman now showing. The effect was immediate. Slack got quieter. Travis stopped reacting to my messages. Same Travis who was firing off fire emojis when Dana pulled the contract on Zoom now left me on scene. Kayla from marketing, who once begged me to join her Women in Tech panel, suddenly had a scheduling conflict. Even Brian, the same guy who once called Brent a PowerPoint narcissist in a happy hour rant, moved our check-in to TBD. That's the thing about corporate America. Loyalty is an endangered species, but fear breeds like rabbits, and came the second punch. I logged into our reporting dashboard, my domain, my data, the kingdom I'd spent 5 years building from scratch, and got this: your access has been restricted. Contact your administrator for more information. No access, no client metrics, no performance snapshots, just a locked door with Brent's fingerprint still warm on the handle. That was the moment, not the email, not the whispers, the dashboard. You don't touch my numbers. I stared at the screen, heart thudding against my ribs, that old familiar panic tightening its grip. The same kind I felt during Reorg Hash 2 when they cut half our department in a single afternoon. The same kind I felt the day my divorce papers arrived and my name wasn't even spelled right. But this time, it didn't last, because I had the Phoenix Pipeline, because I had the Brent collateral, because I had a folder so dense with signatures, approval logs, vendor payment trails, and recorded calls that could be printed and used as a blunt weapon. So I did what any seasoned survivor does when the usual routes are blocked. I escalated, not to HR, not to Brent's boss, not to IT. I went to legal. Specifically, Mariana Cruz, Senior Counsel, Compliance and Ethics Division. She doesn't show up on org charts. She doesn't give seminars. But she handles everything that might show up in a shareholder lawsuit. I sent a single-line email. Hi, Mariana. I'm forwarding documentation relevant to multiple policy breaches related to commissions, vendor approvals, and retaliation. Please confirm receipt. Attached were 3 zipped folders: Phoenix Pipeline, Brent Collateral, and Callahan Retaliation, the last one containing transcripts from our recorded phone call, screenshots of the dashboard lockout, and a fresh backup of the gaslight email he just sent the team. She replied 11 minutes later. Received, reviewing now. Please do not communicate further with Mr. Callahan regarding this matter. We will coordinate directly with internal audit. 11 minutes, that's not just fast. That's we've had our eye on this jackass for a while fast. By the afternoon, my dashboard was mysteriously restored. No explanation. No apology. Just my data, right where I left it, clean, untouched, like the storm had never hit. But the wind had shifted, because Brent thought locking me out would send a message. He was right. It told me exactly how scared he was, and more importantly, how much louder I needed to get. The meeting was scheduled for 4:00 p.m. on a Thursday, prime time in corporate theater for burying bad news without it bleeding into a weekend headline. The invite didn't include me, but I saw it go live on the calendar grid. Internal Compliance Review Closed Session. Participants: Dana, HR Director Leela Nguyen, Senior Counsel Mariana Cruz, and Brent Callahan. 4 names, 1 lamb. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. By then, the stage had already been set, curtains drawn, and every prop loaded with evidence. The files I handed off weren't just about my commission or his after-hours vendor kickbacks. Mariana had combed through each digital fingerprint and dotted line like it was a crime scene and found enough irregularities to warrant a closed-door inquisition. When Brent strutted into that meeting, I imagine he thought it was a formality. A chance to clear the air and maybe spin some story about overzealous staff and procedural misunderstandings. That's how guys like him operate. They confuse confidence for innocence. And at first glance, still had it. The gelled hair, the tight smile, that obnoxious navy blazer with the fake elbow patches. He even posted a selfie that morning with the caption "Leader's Lead." Every room, every time. He really believed he was bulletproof. Until 4:00 p.m. Then the door shut, and the silence on Slack stretched like taffy across the office. The meeting ran exactly 47 minutes. I know because I watched the clock like a surgeon waiting for the beep that signals flatline. No messages, no side chats. Just the slow realization among the team that Brent hadn't posted a single great meeting. Emoji or mid-crisis gif all afternoon. At 4:48, my phone buzzed. It was from Mariana. "Thank you. We've got it from here." That was it. No dramatic reveal. No courtroom monologue. Just that short, clinical note, clean as a guillotine. I stood up and walked to the window, looked out over the parking lot. The sky was heavy, gray like it was holding its breath. I felt the weight begin to lift, not gone, not yet, but shifting, loosening from my spine like sand falling off wet boots. An hour later, I got a ping from Dana. "Effective immediately, your original commission structure has been reinstated. Retroactive adjustments will be reflected in this pay cycle. Appreciate your patience." I read that email 3 times, not because I didn't believe it, because it was the first time in years that the company acknowledged I'd been right before it became convenient to do so. I forwarded it to my personal email. Then I printed it. Then I added it to the Phoenix Pipeline folder. Not for revenge, for record keeping. That night, Brent didn't post a single motivational quote. No end-of-day wrap-up. No crushing Q3 on LinkedIn. By morning, his status on Slack was blank. His profile photo, gone. But I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because reinstating my commission wasn't the end, it was just the appetizer. They gave me back what he tried to steal. Great. But what about what he'd taken from everyone else? The toxic favoritism. The hush-hush vendor deals. The manipulation he painted as culture change. What about the junior rep whose leads mysteriously dried up after disagreeing with him in a team meeting? What about the black engineer whose contract extension Brent forgot to process until HR stepped in? What about the 3 women who left without ever documenting why? I wasn't done. Because now I had receipts and leverage. And for once, I wasn't the one on the defensive. The spotlight had shifted, and Brent, he was just starting to feel the heat. Brent tried to disappear like a fart in a hurricane. The Monday after the closed-door execution, compliance review, he submitted his resignation via a WhisperSoft email to HR and the CFO. No goodbye Slack message. No team-wide onward and upward post. Just a bland subject line, notice of departure, personal reasons. He was trying to ghost the fallout. But our CFO, Greg Kavanaugh, former Deloitte, spine made of steel and espresso, wasn't having it. Greg replied within an hour, and the message was legend. Resignation declined at this time. We'll proceed with a full internal review and documentation process prior to separation. Thank you. Translation: you're not weaseling out, Brent. You're staying for your public flogging. See, Greg didn't just want Brent gone. He wanted the paper trail wrapped, stapled, and laminated for the board. Because Brent hadn't just screwed me, he'd signed his name to a series of improvised bonus reductions and commission adjustments that affected at least 4 other reps, all of whom had quietly grumbled, but never pushed back. Until now, with my folder as the spark, legal started pulling historical compensation records, matching signatures to payout discrepancies. The final tally was stunning, $87,000. That's how much Brent had improperly withheld across multiple employees. $19K from me. Another $14K from Nina down in Saw S West. $8,600 from Darnell, who, by the way, had taken a demotion just to keep his health insurance during his kid's chemo. Real nice, Brent. And guess whose signature was on every single alteration? Not the company's. His. Clause 6C wasn't just a Karen clause. It was a loaded gun pointed straight at his own foot. And he'd fired it. Twice. He tried to push back, of course. Claimed it was legacy documentation issues. That Meredith's leadership style created ambiguity. Commission structures hadn't been standardized across regions. He even floated the term good faith error in one panicked reply to legal. That's when the real hammer dropped. I got the invite on Tuesday. Subject, clarification, Zoom, legal and finance. The kind of meeting where you show up on time, shirt pressed, folder ready, no pleasantries, no jokes, just business, just fire. I clicked the link exactly 1 minute before start time. Inside the call were 6 faces: Dana, Mariana, CFO Greg, someone from HR I'd never met, a representative from internal audit, and Brent. His video was on. He looked older. The gel was gone. The blazer was traded for a wrinkled button down. His eyes were puffy, less I've been crying and more I haven't slept since Thursday. Mariana opened the meeting. Karen, thank you for joining. Reviewing several payout adjustments made under Mr. Callahan's management. We need your confirmation on the documents you submitted regarding your commission plan and any direct conversations related to it. I nodded, happy to clarify anything needed. Brent tried to interrupt. If I can just contextualize, Greg cut him off with a raised hand. You'll have a chance to respond after Miss Foster confirms the sequence. So I did. I walked them through the form. Signature, the 2 verbal confirmations, the emailed acknowledgement, the date the dashboard was locked, the internal escalations, the audit trail. I even shared my screen to show the file metadata. Mariana nodded throughout. Dana added timestamps like she was building a prosecution timeline. Brent sat there, muted, shoulders curling in like he was trying to become a chair. When I was done, Mariana asked one final question. To your knowledge, Miss Foster, any of these actions ever communicated as company-approved policy? I looked at Brent square, then back at her. No. In fact, he framed it as a discretionary leadership decision. Off the cuff, unilateral. Greg typed something, probably into the board report. That was the point of no return. You don't come back from a meeting where your own mouth confirms you've impersonated corporate policy and personally skimmed $87,000 off your team. The trap was closed, and the teeth already digging in. The invite hit my inbox at 7:08 a.m. sharp. Subject, final compensation review executive session. No preamble, no pleasantries. Just a cold slab of calendar meet with a start time, a Zoom link, and a participant list that read like the Solvanta corporate Avengers. CFO Greg. Legal, Dana. HR, Audit, 2 VPs. Even a board liaison, one very unlucky, Brent Callahan. The call kicked off at 9:00 a.m. sharp. Everyone's camera was on. Brent showed up looking like he'd been dragged backwards through a PowerPoint deck. His skin had that sickly color you get after trying to outspin a turbine with a toothpick. The once confident smirk had melted into something between regret and low-grade stomach flu. He tried to start strong, launching into a deflective monologue about miscommunication and the inherent complexities of decentralized comp structures. You could almost hear the buzzword bingo cards filling up across the room. We were moving fast, he said, hands fluttering in a performative swirl. I took steps to stabilize payouts based on legacy inconsistencies that hadn't been reconciled post-Meredith. My intent was always in the best interest of the company. He paused for effect, waited for nods, got none. That's when Dana stepped in. She didn't raise her voice, didn't lean in. She just held up the same piece of paper she'd shown 2 weeks ago, my comp plan, crisp and cruel under perfect lighting. According to your signature, she said calmly, this wasn't a company guarantee. She rotated it toward the camera, highlighting the section in fluorescent yellow. It was yours. You could have heard a pin drop on Jupiter. Mariana from legal added, because you explicitly adjusted commissions without company sign-off, while breaching a legally binding document with a personal guarantee clause, you've placed both yourself and the company in significant financial and compliance risk. Brent's voice cracked. Wait. Look, maybe we can resolve this offline. I wasn't fully briefed on the existing agreements. This can't all fall on me, it was time. I clicked unmute. No, I said. I think the team deserves closure. Didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. I just spoke like someone who already knew the ending and had been kind enough to let everyone else catch up. Greg nodded without hesitation. Agreed. HR will follow up regarding repayment and formal separation terms. Brent's mouth moved, but no sound came out. He reached for his mouse. Probably to leave the call, maybe to vanish. But legal kept talking. Policy violations, repayment plans, retention clawbacks, compliance protocols, and the nail in the coffin, termination for cause, effective immediately. He didn't even log out, he just went still. Screen frozen, eyes wide. By the time the call ended, it felt like the air itself had been evacuated from the room. The quiet was deafening. I closed my laptop, walked to the kitchen, poured myself a fresh cup of coffee, black, no sugar. The way I like it when a storm has passed and left nothing standing but the truth. Then I opened Slack, went to my DMs, found Brent, manager, 3 dots, the little blinking cursor of a man who once tried to turn my income into a leadership lesson. I deleted the thread, didn't save a thing, didn't need to. I'd already kept the only receipts that mattered, and they'd spoken louder than I ever had to. Big thanks, you legends of the old office days. Subscribe to keep the switch-flicking chaos alive. Your ex-boss is shaking in their loafers.